Here's my quick review for Final Fantasy XV's DLC 3, episode Ignis. So the DLC takes place at the point in the story where Noctis is facing off against Leviathan. What I like about how the DLC starts is we get this nice little cutscene in the beginning where Noctis' father, Regis, is talking to Ignis and talking about his responsibility to help take care of his son and make sure that he's a good old lad. But what I like about this sequence is two things. One is, I like seeing the flashbacks when the characters were younger. It was something that I particularly really enjoyed about Final Fantasy XV Brotherhood, the animated film. I like that because it kind of got to show you how he formed his relationships with each of his friends. And that's a really good solid foundation to have, especially when you're going into the main Final Fantasy XV game. So I like when they go back and touch at it actually in-game and not having to go to the movie to kind of get that. So I like that that's here. And at the same time too, I like how this cutscene is presented. I'm not always crazy about having cutscenes being seen from the first-person perspective, mainly because I like to be able to see the characters interact. But for this particular part, it really fits because we're going to be in the shoes of Ignis, and I like how they did that from the first-person perspective. We are Ignis for this chapter. And that is another thing to really make note of here. All the cutscenes that they add are particularly really good. There's some little action beats that they have too in here that are pretty good. I like the choreography. The Japanese always know how to do that. They know how to film action, they know how to make it flashy, and they know how to make it really fun to watch. So you'll be spending most of your time in the city trying to fight your way to Noctis to go rescue him, essentially. So what I like here is there is a really good sense of urgency to it. You know, there's something at stake. You got to go save your friend. Ignis, his responsibility is to take care of Noctis, kind of like an older brother in that respect. So now he needs to go and take care of Noctis. So I like that there is something at stake here, and we feel like we're a part of it too, because if you've played the main game, I mean, you've experienced the main journey, or at least a good chunk of the main journey. So you've got to see their relationship grow a little bit and some of their interactions, so you care about both of the characters. The combat is just flat out badass as playing as Ignis, because he gets to use his daggers, and what's really awesome with these is essentially he can infuse different elemental types into his dagger attacks. They're extremely flashy and very awesome. They just look really cool to pull off, especially when you're swinging around your ice daggers and you stab the ground and you hit a bunch of the enemies. And what's cool too is as you're hitting enemies, you're kind of building up this bar that can let out this super move that you can use. And depending on what elemental power you have, you'll do a different kind of like heavy blast at enemies. So one of the cool ones is the ice one, where you kind of send out this wave of ice. Or if you're using fire, you'll just like pepper them with a bunch of fireballs. Like with most of the combat in Final Fantasy XV, it's fast and it's flashy, and there's not anything different here in that respect. But playing as Ignis, it is a little bit different, and I really like that. The other thing too is that shortly after the DLC starts, you get to use this hook shot, which is pretty cool to play around with for like the beginning part of the area in the DLC, because essentially it'll allow you to like use a grappling hook to get up onto rooftops or like lampposts and kind of zip around. And what's nice is you can kind of zip around the battlefield, and it's similar to Noctis's teleport ability where he could like throw his sword out and like pop where his sword went. So I like that you kind of get something like that here because it's good. It kind of adds like some more speed to the combat. That is something to make note of too, is that while you're in the city, there's going to be a decent amount of exploring. So take the time, grab a bunch of the healing items, crafting items, stuff like that that you can find throughout the city to kind of help you out on your adventure. You may need it, may not, but I do like that it is there so that it's like, oh, I want to go explore, you can. There's another aspect of the story that I really like is that you get more time with Ravis in this DLC, and he's a character that needed more time with him on screen, more of a presence, more of knowing his backstory and maybe motivations and why he does certain things at certain points in the game. This does help to clear up some things in the game. You could have alluded to why he did this, but it's better to see something, have it be presented to you, rather than read about it or have it be told to you. So I like that that is in here. And what is really cool is there is a point where Ignis and Ravis do team up for some battles, and these are really awesome and pretty great. One of the best aspects of this DLC is the music. It's fantastic. I think some of the tracks are reused, but I think there are some new ones specifically for this DLC, because I don't remember hearing them in the main game, and they're fantastic. Grand and epic. Final Fantasy usually does a great job at knocking it out of the park, at having these very memorable music scores in their games. And this is no exception. It's fantastic. I love it. I want to put on my iPod and listen to it all the time. Now, I will say, at its core, you pretty much find out how Ignis became blind at that one point in the story, where you see him again and he's become blind, and you don't really know the tale behind that, besides the fact that he rescued you. So it's neat to kind of like see it firsthand and experience it, and it really adds a lot of emotional weight there, especially between Ignis and Noctis, and you being able to then resonate with that because you experienced it now, you've seen it. So I really like that. The story's got a great sense of urgency, great music, great combat, very enjoyable, and there's a nice little treat too that after you beat the DLC, essentially you can go back and play a part of it and experience an alternate timeline with its own cutscenes and stories and endings. And I thought that was a particularly nice touch to the game and a nice little add-on to have with the DLC. I think that's really cool. I wonder if they'll keep going on with maybe having this type of multiverse with Final Fantasy. I don't know. But overall, I have to say, really my only criticism is pretty much the same criticism I've had with most of these DLC episodes, is that I don't like that they're segmented from the main game. I wish they were incorporated. I wish you just kind of walked along and then came to a campsite and they were like, do you want to experience the Noctis episode? And then you relive like this flashback, or better yet, just find a way to incorporate it in there all naturally instead of having it be segmented like this. Because I will say that while the DLCs might be on the shorter side, they definitely bring the quality and they definitely help the story. And I'm really happy to hear that they are adding more DLC later on in 2018. So we'll continually keep getting this game more and more fleshed out, because the story was an aspect I would like to see more of, and probably better, to just help the overall experience, because I did love the game, but it does have its fair share of flaws. So yeah, if you like Final Fantasy 15, you've probably played this, or you should play this, especially if you enjoyed the story and you want more of it, you really like Ignis. And there's my review for it. It's pretty good. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.